Murphy Jr., and I'm here with Dan Murphy and Brian Barnes. Um, Fellas, it's gonna be a fun show. We're gonna review this Lions Bucks game, but first of all, fellas, it's been a long time since the three of us did a Detroit sports sit down together. So I gotta say, this is pretty exciting, guys. How you guys doing today? Go
Good.
ahead. I'll let you.
Yeah.
How are you doing today, Dan?
I'm doing I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
I
Fan-
thought you, I'm a little rusty, man. I should have asked a question to two people at the same time.
yeah, Tom.
All
Tom,
right,
I wasn't gonna call you. I wasn't gonna call you out, but since you did, no, I'm kidding. No, this is fantastic. I'm excited. It's been a while, like you said, since we talked to you guys, and we have a lot to digest after Monday night. So I'm pretty fired up to be here talking with you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome. So look, guys, let's just get right into it. Like you said, Brian, a lot to talk about with this game, a lot to digest, a lot of. And for me, I think my biggest thing was when the Lions came out and they scored the first touchdown on the first drive. I immediately said, "Oh, they're putting up 50 tonight." And then it was like, what, it felt like another 2 days till they scored again. And like, I was like, what the heck, man? So, but the Lions win 24-9. And I think 99% of the betting country took the over in this game and lost. Like, so I was shocked, man. I was shocked about a few things about how the defense held their own. I was shocked that the offense wasn't as prolific as I thought they were going to be, especially with the amount of injuries that the Bucs had. So, but Brian, I want to start with you because you were at the game, right? And so obviously it goes without saying that the crowd was hype. Monday Night Football in Detroit. I'm sure, as we all know, it was electric. But my question to you, being in that game, was there a different kind of energy because of what happened last week in Kansas City and all the talk that went with it? Or did it just seem like just another hyped up Lions game?
So I'll say this, like walking into the stadium, I felt, and I said this to my buddy that I was with, I did feel like, wow, this almost has like a playoff game vibe to it. And I don't know if everybody else felt that too, or how the Lions looked at it, but like just knowing that the Lions haven't lost back-to-back games in forever, right? Like you just knew um it was going to be pretty legit and it was going to be pretty awesome. And to be honest with you, like I know we got a lot to talk about, but like I felt like you, and I said this to Dan when the other day when we were making our predictions, like I thought it was going to be a butt whooping. And I said it to the guys next to me. I'm like there's Tampa Bay doesn't have a shot. And I just, for whatever reason, I know they were banged up as well, and I felt that. And then the Lions go down and score like it's that. And I just said the same thing. I'm like, dude, this game is over now. And it was one of those deals like I think the Lions, we can all agree, left a lot of points on the board, and we can, I'm sure we'll get into that later. But yeah, it definitely felt like early on after that Amon-Ra touchdown, like, man, this is gonna be a fun night.
Yeah. But with that, like, because I don't want to go too much into what happened last week with Kansas City. But was that even a topic, or were the fans around you like
Well,
not even
it
thinking
became
about that, and we're on to this one? Like,
no,
this
it definitely it
matter.
yeah, it definitely became a topic when there were some questionable calls, right? And there were some calls that may have been ticky tack, right? Or there was a review happening, especially with the Yachten fourth down catch, and did he get the first down and all that stuff. Like there was definitely like oh, you better call New York, or hey, what's New York gonna say? I mean, that definitely like happened, right? I mean, people were definitely aware of that and on edge a little bit. And so yeah, for sure. Like the Kansas City thing was still a topic amongst the fans around me.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
what do you think about that topic, Dan? Do you think the Lions like came in with like some extra motivation from that, and then like with the branch like not being there, and then you seen a lot of defensive backs wore Brian Branch jerseys, to kind of side with him or show support or whatnot. Do you think there was any like extra motivation this week because of what happened last week, or is that not really a thing because each week is different?
I think there was extra motivation, especially in the secondary, because everybody was counting them out. Those guys that were playing, for one, everybody's counting out. They think they're going to get smoked, especially when. So my first thoughts, my initial thoughts when I turned it on and I saw Mike Evans walking, and they're like, he's going to play. I'm like, oh shoot! And then they show Abuka right after that, and they say he's going to play. And I'm like, oh, who's going to cover these guys? Like you got Abuka, you got Evans, you got Des Johnson, you got Otten. Who's going to cover him? Even entirely backup secondary. So I think that secondary knew, like nationally and locally, like everybody's counting them out. They think they're going to get torched. They think they're going to get lit up, and this is their opportunity. These are backups. These are guys that were on. Some of these guys were undrafted. Some of these guys picked up practically off the street and thrown in there, and they made the absolute best of their opportunity. And I think they did play with that edge for multiple reasons. But I definitely think it was more the idea of them just feeling like they were counted out, and this was their opportunity. This was their opportunity to shine and get some serious playing time. And even if they don't get, continue playing time with the Lions, it shows them something, down the road, maybe for another team, down the road. So I think it was just a huge opportunity for those guys, and they absolutely stepped up.
And then it is. So we got the nickname Legion of Whom now for our backup secondary. And what these guys did. Now, Baker Mayfield, he's been the one of the talks of the league so far. This guy's been playing at MVP status, and the Lions, with a depleted secondary, again, the Legion of Whom, shut him down. Now, Brian, as a coach, how can you relate to that topic as far as like Calvin Shepard, like hyping that secondary up, and like you said, Dan, like showing them that, hey, everybody's counting you out. Like, so Brian, as a coach, how would you describe what happened with that secondary with a bunch of no-name guys? How did they play so well, and how much coaching goes into that when you got a whole entire position group counted out?
Yeah, I think the scheme and what he did is everything, right? And I think two things that really impressed me were, the Buccaneers, they didn't go downfield a lot, right? And the one big play they tried to get to Mike Evans where he unfortunately got hurt. That was one of the plays that they really took a shot, but like part of that was because of the Lions pass rush, right? And Dan and I remember talking about that before, just kind of letting those guys eat a little bit, and Mayfield really, he was off on a lot of throws. Like there was a lot of open receiver. There were, I mean, not a lot necessarily, but like there were balls that he missed, right? And I think part of that is because he was feeling some heat. But something else too that really stuck out to me, and I don't know how appreciative you could see it on TV, is like whenever Baker Mayfield threw hot or checked down, I feel like there was never a catch and run big gain by the Buccaneers. Maybe that was missing Chris Godwin, right? I don't know. But like they still had some dudes, like we said, Abuka, Tez Johnson, like they still had some guys. But like there was never, I felt like a big play. I felt like whenever they threw hot or checked down, it was like boom, tackled, 2nd and 6. Like that is what impressed me more than anything. That those guys in space were sure tacklers. And it was almost like sometimes as a defensive coordinator, like you can anticipate theoretically, like, all right, we're going to bring pressure from here. Let's try to get this hot check down, right here. And just teach your guys, make sure your guys are sure tacklers. And so that's coaching to me right there. And that was the most impressive thing to me, that they didn't have the time to really take advantage and try to get a big play, right? And whenever they threw it short and checked down, the Lions were sure tacklers. Like that was pretty cool, because there's a lot of criticism nowadays with football, especially in the NFL, that the tackling's bad. But like that was the thing that stood out to me the most the other night.
Yeah. Now, Dan, What stood out to you the most about this the Legion of Whom, like a situation or a specific player? And do we now have more weapons in the defensive backfield than we even imagined? And because if there's one thing it's next man up, and then it's the NFL stands for not for long, right? So did somebody win a job last week, or like, what are your thoughts on this defensive secondary going forward with the way the Legion of Whom, I love that term now, the Legion of Whom actually played against a legit offense?
Yeah, so the thing that stood out to me the most, and Brian and I talked a lot about it when we previewed the game, was whether they're going to play a lot of zone or whether they're going to play man defense. And I think it was Troy Aikman who talked about it, and obviously they talked to the guys before the game, and to get ready. And what Calvin Shepard basically said was that we got to get back to who we are. And I think it was a situation where, and Brian and I, we've had these situations coaching, is do you change who you are to go to your personnel? Whether it's injuries or whether you go into a season not having maybe the talent you want to have. Do you change who you are to play to your personnel, or do you just continue to play who you are and play who you've been and what your culture has been, what your organization has been? And last week they played a ton of zone. That's not who they are. That's not who they've been under Dan Campbell. But they tried to, cater to their injuries in the secondary, and they got torched. Mahomes torched them when they played zone defense. That's not who they are. So this week they got back to playing a lot more man defense. And even with these backups, guys stood up. And you mentioned, asked who was somebody that stood out. And Nick Whiteside was definitely a guy who stepped up and balled out and probably earned himself, at least some playing time, or at least, a starting spot until these guys come back. And even with these guys come back, he can be in the rotation now. He kind of proved himself in that game. And we talked about at the beginning, guys having an opportunity to show what they got. They haven't had an opportunity, they haven't had a starting opportunity, and this was their chance. And Nick Whiteside was definitely one of those guys that stood out.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Calvin Shepard walking himself right into a coaching spot now? Because a lot of the talk at the beginning of the season was, oh, you're replacing, both your coordinators. A lot of the talk was about the offense, obviously, but a little less worrisome, I guess, was losing Glenn and having Shepard step up. I think there was a little less worry about that, but now I think all that worry is gone, right? With Calvin Shepard, he's a good coordinator. Like, now is he rising to the level of, like, he's going above and beyond now, and he's probably like the next hot Lions coordinator to go get a job? And if so, what does that mean for Dan Campbell himself? Is he the next guy? Is he the next, like, to use the college reference, like Nick Saban, where if you're a coordinator for Nick Saban in the next few years, you're on the fast track to a head coach? It's like, is Dan Campbell becoming that guy? And is Calvin Shepard that next guy?
I mean, if it's obviously something, if Calvin Shepard continues to do it throughout the rest of the season and then into next year, absolutely. I think that has to be the case, obviously, right? And really quick too, back to Dan's comment about the secondary playing a lot of man. Like, the Lions had a lot of PBUs too, like a lot of pass breakups too, and I don't think I gave them enough credit for that. Yeah, that's all coaching to detail, man. You know what I'm saying? And those guys on those 50-50 balls, they made a lot of plays. But yeah, that's all that is all Shepard's doing, right? And he does do a good job. Like, the coaching cycle, I think sometimes it's all about fit, it's all about mindset and attitude. But, like, yeah, I don't see why not. I guess one pause for concern could be is being a head coach is different than being a coordinator, in that you're in charge of everybody and you're overseeing everybody, and you're not necessarily calling a side of the ball, right? And so, Aaron Glenn right now is 0-7.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that. I know there again. There's a lot of reasons for that, but chances are Kelvin Shepard. I mean, he's not gonna go to a playoff made ready team. You're right. I mean, probably not. If a team's looking for a head coach, chances are it's going to be in a similar situation. But that's not to say that that's all Aaron Glenn's fault. Obviously, that's not to say that Kelvin Shepard won't be a good head coach. But you wonder if that would give teams reason to pause. But Tom, to answer your question, I don't see why not. If this especially if this continues and the Lions make a playoff run, yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Dan? Like, is Dan Campbell becoming this guy where coaches want to go learn under him so they can rise in this league, or is this kind of like a facade right now where it's just kind of situational?
No, I think there's definitely a tree starting with a Dan Campbell tree, and yeah, I do think a head coach is in his future. I don't know if it'll be this season. I think the Lions would have to make a long playoff run, if not win a Super Bowl, and him be kind of prominent. Yeah, that was kind of his coming out party. He's showing himself nationally, and people nationally starting to get to know who he is. But he's still got a lot more to prove. I mean, it's only been half a season this far, so it's there's going to be a lot more big games, a lot more national games, a lot more opportunities for him to continue to show himself. But I think it's going to come down to how it looks in the playoffs, because this is only his first year as a coordinator, so it's going to have to be quite the impressive season as a team and from the defensive standpoint from the whole season and what they do in the playoffs for him to get an opportunity, I think. But his energy and his enthusiasm, I think, is infectious, and I think that attracts a lot of GMs, a lot of owners, and a lot of teams want to get what the Lions have. They Brian and I talked about, they haven't lost back-to-back games since October of 22, and since that time they've been the best team in the NFL. So like, owners want that. They want to bring what the Lions have. And you can't just, one coach isn't going to do it, but you can start it with a good quality coach who brings that type of enthusiasm and brings that type of energy. And Pritchard definitely brings that. You can see that when he's coaching on the sidelines. Like, he's just, and you hear him talk, like, man, he's just a guy you want to run through a brick wall for. And those are the type of coaches that I think are more attractive right now, because teams want to start building a culture like the Lions have, because that lasts long term. If you got a flashy offense that does well for 1 or 2 years, that can be good for that time. But if you want to be good for a long time, you got to build a culture, and Pritchard could be that guy down the road.
Yeah. All right. Let's switch gears to the other side of the ball. All right, Dan, were you surprised that the offense only scored 24 points in a game where, leading up to the game and then after the first touchdown, we thought, the Lions going to put up 50, and then they didn't. There was some turnover issues, missed a fourth down, like turnover and downs, whatever. The offense wasn't as electric as I think we thought they would be, aside from the Gibbs show, which we're going to get into that. But overall, were you disappointed with the offense, Dan, or is it just one of them games where you just thought it was going to go one way, and for whatever reason it went the other, and we still won, so it doesn't matter? Or was there a slight concern with the way the offense didn't produce the way we all thought they were going to?
It's 2 weeks in a row they've been a little clunky, not finishing drives. They, Bates missed a couple field goals. Like, they just, it's not quite the Lions offense that we'd seen, but I would credit the teams that they played. Spagnuolo, one of the better, defensive minds in football for Kansas City. He's been one of the great defensive guys for a long time, and Tampa Bay has had a great defense for a long time too. So, those are two really good defenses that they were going against, two of the better defenses in the league. So it is understandable for them, to not be as sharp as they were earlier in the season. But yeah, I mean, I guess if there's any concerns for the Lions right now, it might be that the offense isn't as sharp as you'd like it to be. But fortunately, you got the bye week, and you can clean up some stuff and take care of some of the mistakes that they've had, and hopefully get rolling once again. But it is nice that the offense, puts up 24 points, and it was you never really felt worried about this Lions winning this game, because the defense played such a dominant way and shut Tampa Bay down to such a way that you were never worried. So That's highly, highly encouraging. I think that might be the most encouraging thing from this game is that maybe the Lions can win games now without the offense having to score, 30 points plus. Like they can have a little bit of a down game and they can lean on their defense a little bit more than they have been able to in the past.
And Brian, all right, I'm throwing you a curveball here, my friend. This one's not on the show sheet, but yeah.
Okay, I'm ready.
What do you think about the use of Jameson Williams, where he's one of the fastest guys on the field, and he was pretty much non-existent from a coaching perspective when you have a guy who's kind of had the history that he's had, and I think the whole city of Detroit chomps at the bit for him to just get 70-yard touchdowns every week, and he's not getting the ball. And you can take whatever his social media is, but he kind of subtly expresses frustrations. But in when he talks, he says hey, I'm all about the team. I'm about winning whatever it takes. You still see him blocking downfield. But to not get Jameson Williams even involved really from a head coach perspective, how do you keep a player like that motivated? And also, why aren't they using his skills in a more direct way, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think I mean that's a lot to digest right there, Tom. So thank you, but I'm ready for it.
You curveball,
you definitely did. I'll be honest with you. I was kind of surprised they gave him an extension because I think even without JMO, their offense is pretty good. There is a lot of mouths to feed, and I think what they can always go back to is last year, at times in different games, everybody at some point ate at the table, right? JMO had games where he went off. Laporta had games he went off. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, right? They're running, some games both running backs just went off. So I think that's part of it, keeping him motivated. I think that's kind of the easy part in that sense, right? It's not like it's a offense that's scoring 13 to 17 points every week and he's not getting his touches. It's not that kind of thing. I think it's more because the other guys are pretty good as well. And one thing I did notice from where I was sitting, it was nice. I did have an end zone view of the game. Tampa definitely played a lot of coverage. They did a lot to make sure that JMO was not able to get over the top of the defense a little bit, but the Lions, at least early on, they were able to get some of their drive routes and their crossing routes. The very first touchdown to St. Brown was kind of a mesh type thing, and where he's running across the field. So they got him on some out routes as well. So I think Tampa Bay respected it and they played it very well, and the Lions took advantage of it in other ways. Now, last year, Ben Johnson was pretty creative in how he got in the last couple of years and how he got Jameson Williams the ball with reverses and things of that nature. So I can see at some point, it's a long year, you know what I mean? I could see at some point John Morton going to that and finding ways to get him the ball that way, because you're right, he is still explosive, but man, they got a lot of explosive pieces, right? And so it's I'm sure something they're looking at, going into the bye week, and it's there'll be games where I think JMO will get his, and we'll look back and say this is kind of an anomaly.
Now, I know, Brian, at a high school level, it's different. But at the same time, JMO, God, what is he, 23 years old, something maybe? So, how do you keep a young player who has all the potential motivated when he goes, blank, he blanks a game, basically? I don't even, did he even have a catch?
He did not.
Yeah.
No.
How do you keep a kid who is used to being a star and has that star potential, and then especially at the wide receiver, the diva, they're the divas, man. So Dan, you can fire in on this one too, because I know you did that a lot but it's more in the grind side with the offensive defensive lines. But you get stars on on that. But so how do you keep a young kid motivated when he's not getting the ball?
I think it's what Dan said earlier. It's all about the culture. It's all about the Dan Campbell culture and now the Lions way. I think he's got a lot of guys around him who have bought into that. A lot of players around that are like, hey man, like this is who we are. And I think if the Lions had any concern about JMO acting that way or having, in a game like this, they wouldn't have signed it. They wouldn't have extended him. Like there's no way. So I mean, I think it, like back to Dan said, it's all about culture. And that's just the expectation of what they do. Because there's games where like David Montgomery didn't get his either, right? You know what I mean? Like there's games where Laporta isn't exactly tearing it up this year, right? So it's not just JMO, but they're also 5-2, and they're going to be a playoff team again. So I mean, there's culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
And
just
then,
going to
yeah,
mention David Montgomery, and he didn't really get many touches last night
exactly.
either because it was a Jahmyr Gibbs show. Like
Yep.
Gibbs got all the touches, and justifiably so. Man, he was electrifying last night. So, and nobody's talking about David Montgomery being like being worried about David Montgomery or him be acting up about not getting his touches because he knows what the role is. Like they went with the hot hand, they went with Gibbs, and
Oh,
Montgomery's had his games already, this season, and it's the same way with JMO. It's the same. I'm looking at Laporta only had a couple catches. It just depends. The Lions are going to take what the defense gives them, and the defense cannot take everything away. Like, there's just too many playmakers. There's a playmaker at every school position. It's incredible. So just not everybody's going to get theirs. It's just the way it is. Some games it's going to rotate throughout the season. Some guys are going to have big games one week and they might not have a big game the next week because defenses are going to game plan you differently, and they're going to decide, which poison they're going to take. Like in this time it was Gibbs and St. Brown, but yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. I mean, I guess maybe it would have been nice to try to find him, just something short, a little hitch pass, or it's just or maybe a reverse or something just to get him the ball and maybe make a play. But you'd like to get the ball in his hands because he's so dang fast. But again, Tampa Bay was kind of taking him away, and they went underneath the St. Brown and they went to Gibbs. So obviously it worked. I mean, we would have liked seen a little bit more points, but they put up plenty of yards. They just weren't finishing drives, but I mean, they definitely were moving the ball down the field. So.
And that was a great point because I did want to kind of preference the Montgomery situation with you, Dan, because it's like because it is because like we know, man, that it's Sonic and Knuckles, man. Like it's a two or like it's a tandem backfield back there. It's Gibbs and Montgomery, and either one of them can steal the show. We've seen that now. And that's a beautiful thing, right? Like, but okay. Is Gibbs the guy now? Like, did he we've known he's got that speed and like he's got the moves and such. But he has such a perfect co-star, I guess I would say, man, because Sonic and Knuckles is becoming a thing in Metro Detroit, man. Metro Detroit, in Lions Nation. And we got two studs, and they're not always like, a lot of times one of them's gonna do better than the other, but now both these guys, like, they score touchdowns each week, like both of them, man. So, but did we see something though? I wonder this week.
Yeah, but Dan Campbell mentioned it in his press conference that this was going to happen at some point. Like they could see it coming that Gibbs was going to explode. Like they probably have seen it in practice and seen it on film that this was coming, and this was the week that it showed. And he kind of alliterated to like, this might be what it's going to be going forward. So yeah, it might be a little bit more Gibbs 3 down back. Most of the time it's Gibbs, and then maybe short yardage, it's Montgomery. It's 4-minute offense end of the game. You're trying to run the clock out. That's Montgomery time, and goal line situations. That's Montgomery time. But the other, the primary play is, the majority of the snaps might be seeing Gibbs kind of take that over.
Brian, well, yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Dude, I was just gonna say, I made a comment to some of my buddies the other day. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the best player in the NFL. And you can call me like, hey, that maybe that's like, I'm not a lion sheep, right? Like, but I think he's the best player in the NFL. And I think
At his position, or like,
I
oh,
I I think period. I
you think
think
he's a
he's
better football player than Mahomes, a
I
better
think
football
he
player than
is the
Miles Garrett?
best player in the NFL right now. I do.
And
I think it's one of those
why?
times where you got to use the pound for pound moniker.
I
Because
mean,
you got to, you know what I mean? You got to still, I mean, quarterback is still, it's tough to
it's
say that a
still
guy's
I
better than
say
a quarterback,
I mean
top
like,
quarterback.
okay, so to me, quarterback is still the most important position in sports.
Yeah.
Sure, I get it. But like
You know,
we're
just skill, like just straight skill and just straight like, because you saw the dude like once
it's
if he makes that zigzag and there's nobody right there, he's gone. Nobody's
it
catching him, you
it's
know.
becoming
But
must see TV if it's not
yeah,
already, man. Like um
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just
I posted a bunch of Lions Bucks videos leading up to the game. Like I talked about, I try to do that every week, you know, leading up to whatever the teams that are playing, and look, you know, just post old games and stuff like that. And I posted a ton of Barry Sanders tearing up Tampa Bay, right? And there was the last one I posted was Monday Night Football from '98, and that was Barry's last season. But it was a down Tampa Bay team. It was definitely a down Lions team. But the whole thing that they led up to, the whole pregame and everything was about Barry Sanders. And they highlighted Barry Sanders. And he tore it up. I think he had 130 something yards in that game. But then I'm watching this game, on Monday, obviously. And I'm like, man, Gibbs looks so much like him. Like just the way, the speed, the footwork, the way he can make guys miss. Like it's unbelievable. And that is thrown away so much since Barry's retired. Oh, this guy looks like Barry. Like every time a guy makes a nice cut, oh, that's Barry Sanders. But this really looked like Barry against Tampa Bay, like vintage classic Barry tearing up Tampa Bay. And it Gibbs out there, he just looked incredible. And like Brian said, he thinks he's the best player in the NFL. He was unquestionably the best player on the field on Monday.
yeah, he's must see TV. Like he's a better comparison than Barry Sanders to me is like Marshall Faulk. Like as much as you want,
yeah.
like Kurt Warner obviously was a perfect fit like back in the day for the Rams, but man, like Marshall Faulk did everything right. Like would it surprise you if okay? I mean, obviously because Dave Montgomery's still there, but will it surprise you one year if Jahmyr Gibbs also catches 100 passes in his career?
Well, that's
You
what
know
I
what I
think.
mean?
Yeah, I definitely think Gibbs has the ability to you get that block, you juke the linebacker, and the safeties ain't catching you. You're gone. Saw that. We also see the catches out of the backfield. But the NFL has changed, man. In Marshall Faulk days, most teams had one running back. They didn't do the two-headed system there, right? Not necessarily, and as time has gone on and the way that running backs get chewed up and spit out in the NFL, you need a two-back system. You need the guy because usually right now with this two-back system, one guy's probably hurt. like one guy's probably not as fast as the other guy right now. Like regardless of like actual God-given speed, but just like the injuries and all that, especially with these running backs. Like the running back is the most demanding and the least. I don't know. I've read a stat at one point, like the average NFL running back lasts like 2.5 years, right? Where if you look at a quarterback, the average quarterback lasts like 10 years or whatever because they're so protected. The running backs just get annihilated week after week. How important now is it, Brian? I'll start with you. How important is it to recognize that Gibbs is the star of the show? You need to feed him the ball. You got to get, and with all that speed, you got to give him the screen pass on it. But you also have to keep Montgomery involved, and you have to keep him motivated. I'm not saying you need to keep him motivated like himself mentally, but just as from a player perspective, you have to feed him the ball because he is also worthy of being a number one running back in the NFL right now, right? So how do you mix those two in an offense like the Lions have when you're recognizing, yeah, Gibbs is taking that leap to being an elite, but also Montgomery's a viable running back as well. How do you balance that?
I mean, keep in mind that that the NFL has added an additional game, right? And so I say that because like I can see a situation, and you just talked about it, that the game has changed and it's not just a one running back like carrying the load for a team anymore. So like I would not be surprised if in 2 weeks David Montgomery gets a similar amount of touches as Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Really, I think the Lions are aware of trying to keep everybody fresh as well, right, for the long run and for the playoff run. And so that doesn't surprise me at all. And David Montgomery has never come off like the guy who is selfish and needs to get his touches, right? So obviously that's not a concern that I have for David Montgomery. But you're right, he does help you out. But I mean, like if you got the horse, ride him, right? As the saying goes. And Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously the horse. And um, David Montgomery, like I don't know his contract situation, but I don't know if he's a guy that's going to be with the Lions much longer either, right? I could see them drafting a guy and maybe getting a cheaper alternative to play behind Jahmyr Gibbs going forward. But yeah, no, David Montgomery, there'll be games I'm certain where he's going to help the Lions win. Some of it might be matchup dependent as well, but Jahmyr Gibbs has shown like they're not afraid to run him between the tackles either, or inside the 10-yard line as well. So I mean, I think they're very aware that they need to keep him fresh for the long run.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan, about the Lions' current running back situation? What's the most important thing right now with these two guys, and what do you think going forward with having essentially two lead running backs?
I mean, I just think Gibbs is going to get a little bit more of the carries and a little bit more of the touches and a little bit more of the playing time. I think it just shifts a little bit. Maybe it was 60-40 Gibbs. Maybe it's, more 75-25 now. Like, Montgomery's still going to be a big part of this team. I don't think that's going to change. And I do think, if Montgomery's getting his carries and he's hot, maybe they'll stick with Montgomery for a little bit more. And that's kind of what they've done. But I think just in general, when they go into a game, it's going to be more tailored to Gibbs getting the majority. Like I said, probably more like a kind of a 75-25 going forward at this point, because he deserves it, man. He's one of the best players, if not the best skill player in the league. So you want to get the ball in Gibbs' hands as much as possible. But it goes back to what we talked about with the receivers, right? They're just loaded. This offense is just absolutely loaded. I think it's the best offensive roster in the entire NFL. Like there's only one football. You can't get it around to everybody. Yeah. And that's the greatness of this offense. There's just so many guys, and a defense can't take away everybody. They just can't. So they got to choose their poison. And like I said, some weeks maybe it will be Montgomery gets some more carries because they just want a little bit more of a power back. But in general, man, Gibbs has earned it, man. He want to get the ball in his hands as much as he can.
And Tom, for the record, let me clarify this. So like me saying Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is the best player in the NFL. Like, there's always a debate with like MVP and stuff like that, right? I still think quarterback's the most valuable position in football, right? So, like, if I had an MVP vote, would it be Jahmyr Gibbs? Probably not, right? But that's my thinking there. I think in general, overall, physical tools, what he does, man, best player.
Well, I'll put it this way. If you could pick one player in the entire NFL to get the ball to in space.
Yeah,
he's the guy.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not even just his elite speed. Like it's the way he knows. Like when you like you said, Dan, like early, like when he scored his touchdown off of the spin, that was some like David Montgomery touchdown. Like I thought, okay, now bring in Montgomery. Let him hard charge those few yards, power his way into the end zone, because that's what Montgomery does. But Dan, I'm telling you, man, it was Barry Sanders. Like the way he went up to the line, recognized the situation, and did the Madden spin. Like it's like he hit the O button on himself, dude, and just whoop, spun and right into the end zone. Like that stuff, you can't teach that. I mean, I guess you can teach anything, I guess. But like, you can't teach instincts. And Gibbs has it. Yeah, he's not the big power back he like Montgomery is. But man, like when you see stuff like that, like, okay, he doesn't just have to get in space. He can make moves when the situation arises, like at those goal line situations. And you saw that on that spin move into the end zone. Like it was a beautiful sight. Going back to these wide receivers, and then not so much J-Mo, but Isaac Tesla as well. Who, okay, so these guys are both like 2, 3, number 2, number 3 receivers, and they're kind of like competing with themselves for kind of the same deal, that long shot, deep threat, amazing catches. And Tesla has had he had the 2 one-handed catches, and I forget which game, but he finally caught a ball with 2 hands, and then people were amazed. Like he even I think Morton said it, our offensive coordinator, where he's like, well, this is the first time I've seen him catch with, or the wide receivers coach, maybe. I might be wrong on this, but anyway, it was like, this is the first time I've seen him catch a ball with 2 hands. So, like, why are we not getting these two guys, not just J-Mo, but with Tesla, who are both kind of competing for that extra wide receiver spot, right? Like, where's Tesla and where's J-Mo in this offense and in the future of this Lions offense going down the stretch here? And Dan, I'll start with you on this one.
Well, we've kind of hammered this, I think, this topic home, and Tesla, you can add Tesla into that group too.
That's what I was saying. I kind of want to add,
man, there's just only one ball to go around. You know what I mean? Like, guys, they were taking that away, and they tried to get Tesla. They went on that first 4th down. I think it might have been the first 4th down, but it was a 4th down play. They tried to get it to Tesla on a fade, it looked like, on a deep route, and I think Goff just overthrew it just a little bit. But they were trying to get Tesla an opportunity to go up and get it, and that I think that's kind of where Tesla's at. He might get like 1 or 2 really good opportunities a game, and that was the one, and they just weren't able to connect. But I think that's kind of where Tesla's role is right now. Kind of more that red zone, gets fades into the end zone, kind of throw it. If he's one-on-one coverage, throw it up to him, like an opportunity to go up and get it, because he's shown that he can absolutely do that. He can beat a corner one-on-one on a jump ball and go get that ball at the highest point. So that's kind of where I see his role at, kind of being in that spot. And that's a good role for him. He's still a rookie. He's still learning a lot. And the Lions have taken that path. They took that path with a lot of guys, their rookie years, especially the receiver. Like St. Brown took a little while to get in. I think it was more mid-season his rookie year. J-Mo was hurt, but it was kind of a different situation. But, even his second year, it kind of took a while for him to get going and learn all the routes and learn everything and get that connection with chemistry with Goff. So, I think it's a good situation for Tesla. He gets a couple opportunities a game to try to make a big play, but he's just going to continue to learn and continue to develop. And if somebody goes down, just like we saw in the secondary, he's going to be right there to step up and be a key guy if they need him.
Yeah. Where you at there with Brian? Where when you got a guy who's shown he can make amazing plays, so maybe he's just not that ready to be a focal point.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm gonna geek out a little bit on you guys. So
Please do.
Yeah, like okay, so defenses in all levels of football have gotten lighter, right? With the style of play that the offensive play are playing. All right. A lot more a lot more spread type stuff, a lot more skill guys in the field, lot of space to cover, right? So defenses have had to get lighter, right? So I've had conversations with guys like how good would Ray Lewis be, trying to cover somebody like Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield. You know what I'm saying? Like I think Ray Lewis would probably do a halfway decent job because he's a freak, but like you see my point, right? The game's a little bit different now. And so like with Tesla, like if he's coming in with on those 3 and 4 receiver sets that the Lions don't do a ton off of, because if they do that, keep in mind somebody has to come off the field. So maybe the Lions like matchups. Like, and you notice the other night, like Brock Wright caught a few balls, right?
Yeah.
So like there are matchups game plan wise where Laporta and Brock Wright are a better matchup on the three linebackers than it would be bringing in Tesla, right? And then the defense brings in their nickel, right? And so sometimes it could be like that matchup type situation where obviously Tesla isn't going to beat out J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Right. So some of it could be a matchup thing. So going into their next game, maybe they like his matchup against the nickel that they're playing. So maybe they'll do more three receiver sets. Right. So some of that to me is matchups. And like typically in the NFL historically, there's been a lot of really good receivers who weren't great their first couple years, right? And one I think of like just popped into my head as a Lions fan growing up, Herman Moore wasn't killing it, his first 2 years in the league, for example. So I mean, that happens as well. It's a difficult position to play in football, and so he's extremely talented. He makes some highlight reel catches, and he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah.
You brought up the point, Brian, about having Brock Wright and Laporta in the game. Like, yeah, that's who the kind of who the Lions are. They want to run the ball more often than not if they can, and especially if they have the lead. There's no reason to go, the four receiver sets, even three receiver sets. You're going to see a lot more two tight end sets. So if the Lions are trailing or if they're trailing big, that's where you're going to see more of the 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, and that's where you would see more Tesla. So if the Lions were not as successful as they have been, and they were trailing a lot more in games, you'd probably see a lot more Tesla.
Yeah.
Just because they need to get down the field, they need to move the ball, they need to throw the ball. But they're generally not in those situations. They're generally, even if they lose games, they're rarely ever down a lot, where they're in a big time, like come from behind situations. So they're trying to run the ball, they're trying to control the clock, and they're usually playing with the lead. So you're going to see a lot more running formations.
It's one thing Dan and I miss, like when we've coached in high school, and even some colleges, unless you're like Division I level colleges, like don't have that luxury of those multiple personnel packages where you can get creative and think like like how you're talking right now. But yeah, great point.
Yeah. Well, all right, fellas. So now this bye week is this like the perfect time, like, or like we're 5-2. The secondary was decimated, but all these young guys stepped up and they changed the game a bit for this Lions outlook, I guess, right? Like, because like I said, I think everybody in the country thought that was going to be a 50-49 shootout, and it certainly wasn't. So now you're going into the bye week. This is the time to get healthy. All right, so Dan, what's the most important thing during this bye week? Is it getting healthy, or is it possibly looking now with the trade deadline looming? Is there anybody you're looking at? Like teams are starting to, like, you got some defensive edges on Miami that might be tradable. Looking back to Seattle or Cincinnati with the Trey Hendrickson situation. Are there things you're looking at this week going into the bye week that
I still think
really
it's rest and rest and get healthy. I think the bye week comes at a good time. You always like to get it towards the middle of the season if you can get it. It feels like the Lions a lot of times get it early, which really sucks. And it really sucked last year because they had all the injuries happen and they just couldn't get a chance to really kind of collect themselves and kind of catch their breath and maybe get some guys back. It just seemed like they were, game after game after game, and the Minnesota was right on their heels the whole season. So they couldn't ever really take their foot off the gas. And I think maybe that came back to bite them once they finally did get in the playoffs. But yeah, I think that would be the biggest thing. I mean, just rest up and get healthy. Like we talked about, maybe a little bit, maybe some things to clean up offensively a little bit, just to be a little bit sharper, finish drives and things like that. But yeah, I think at any bye week, I think when you're a team in this situation with the Lions, and they've had so much success, and they're playing so well going into the bye week, the biggest thing is just to rest and get healthy.
What do you think, Brian? Are there should Brad Holmes be picking up the phone and calling and possibly mortgaging the future right now for I know, we screamed all about it last season. Go get an edge, man. At first it was Crosby, then it was Garrett, and then it was Hendrickson. Is that, do you, in your mind, do you think that is still in play? Do you think that might be in Brad Holmes' mind to make a move? And the bye week is always the best week to make a trade because you got that time to get that new player acclimated. Is there a move you think not only could be made, but should be made?
I mean, football's a sport. Like, obviously, I think Brad Holmes has to take calls or look around, and I'm sure those guys have talked about it since the beginning of the season. But typically, football isn't really a sport where that making a deadline acquisition is going to put you over the top, right in the middle of the season. That's very tough to do because it is like such a team oriented sport. Obviously, that rarely happens. So, do they need to? I I don't know. I think that's the easy thing to say, but I think they will look around, and it wouldn't surprise me if they do something, even if it's minor, add some depth pieces, things like that, especially in the secondary, right? Obviously, we talked about, but one thing too you mentioned, Tom. Like I'm not as concerned as how the offense played last week as a lot of people are, because again, they're a missed field goal and a fourth down conversion away from winning that game 34-9. And then, are we, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's not as it's not as bad as off as we think. But one thing that is going to be interesting down the rest of the way, and Dane mentioned that Minnesota was at their heels a year ago. I mean, it's going to be that same way with Green Bay right now. And so the thing about it is getting the number one seed. I do think the Lions are a team, and Jared Goff is a quarterback who does play better inside. Right? I just do. And so if they have to go outside, that concerns me a little bit. But maybe it concerns me a little bit less because the way Jahmyr Gibbs is running the ball, and the way they are running the ball. But their two losses, the offense didn't look great, and both games were outside. So I can definitely, I think that's pretty important to still push for that number one seed.
All right. All right. So, um, last topic, the NFC North. Are they still kings? Like, is the NFC North the best division in football? And I also want to bring up ties, man. Like, okay, it's like, okay, so I'm gonna let you guys both give your opinions on the NFC North, but I want just a little caveat. Why the hell do we have ties in football, man? Like, okay, so like Green Bay, like they're 4-1-1, and they're in first place, but they only have, and okay, so Brian, like for you, like like why do the NFL still have ties, man? Like,
I don't know. I mean, because I think they don't want games to be like 70-69. You know what I'm saying? Like they do in college football and have that long extended overtime. But I think it's something. I think the tie is gonna hurt the Packers. Like if they're in a situation where they lose a game down the road and lose to the Lions on Thanksgiving, and they're a half a game out, something like that, instead of getting that win. That could come back to bite them. But yeah, plus the other part is you know, the Packers are playing really well, but it's a long, like I keep going back to it, like it's a long season. You know what I'm saying? And they've got some tough games. I'm going to bring up their schedule really quick in front of me, unless you guys beat me to it. But like again, they got to play the Lions, right? Dan, help me out. Are you
looking for
thinking
Green
like
Bay schedule?
yeah, I'm looking for the schedule right now. I'm gonna find it. So like they play, okay, they got to play the Steelers this week. Steelers are Aaron Rodgers has played really well recently.
yeah.
They still have to play the Lions. They still have to play the Eagles. As crazy as it sounds, they have to
Oh,
go
wait,
to
sorry, hold up.
they have to go to Denver. That's
Packers are
something.
playing the Steelers.
Yeah. So I
Where is the
mean,
game at? Is it in Green Bay?
it's
I
in
didn't look. I'm sorry.
it's in Pittsburgh. So that's what I mean. So
Oh,
like there's
NFL missed the
still
boat on that one,
yeah,
man.
yeah. Like there's still so much to play, and I like Jordan Love a lot, right? But I mean, is he elite? Like I don't know. It's still a long year, right? It's still a lot to
Yeah.
play out. So I'm not going to put them. You asked the question. I still think the Lions are the king of the North.
Yeah. Are
Yep.
they? okay, like still with you, and Dan, I'm gonna go back to you, but Brian is not only are the Lions the king of the North, is the NFC North the king division of the NFL, like top to bottom. Would you rank the NFC North number one division right now?
Oh gosh. I mean the AFC East, like New England being having a rebound year.
NFC East?
The AFC East, right? So
Oh,
like
don't be talking about New England.
You got the Jets and Dolphins in there, Brian.
I know that's a good point. I'm looking at it thinking like top heavy a little bit. Tom, it's possible, right? I mean, right now, record wise, again, potentially, like the fact that the Lions' worst team is or the division's worst team is 3-3, right? So you could argue if you're going just by record, yeah. But like again, I want to see Caleb Williams play well a full season. I want to see Jordan Love like finish that out first before I make any of those assertions yet.
Yeah. All right. And then okay, like first of all, just a quick, what's in your mind about ties in the NFL? Because to me, it just bothers the hell out of me. Like these guys go out there like and they play you, and just like my man Hernan words said, you play to win the game. You don't play to tie the game. So like, do you think that should just be done with, or do you understand why there's still ties in the NFL?
The NFL is an incredibly physical, violent game. And asking these guys to play a whole nother quarter is already going pretty far. To ask them to potentially pay, 2-3 quarters. I mean, who knows how long it could go if you don't want any ties. So you're going to have to come up with some kind of convoluted system like college football has. Nobody really loves that. It's a situation where there really is no perfect scenario. I don't like that it's just 10 minutes. I'd like it to be at least a full quarter, to see what, but I just don't think there's a perfect system, and you can't have these guys playing forever. It's not like baseball where you can go 17, 18 innings and play 2 games in one.
Tiger fans know
you
how
just
that
can't
goes.
do that in football.
You start going 13, 14 innings, man. That's a grind on baseball players, let alone, could you imagine NFL football players playing a whole second game in overtime?
Yeah, there's just you can't do it. It's not feasible.
In my opinion, like ties are still rare in the NFL. I think if you want to use the comparison to like the old school college football that had ties, like I felt there was ties all the time then. Yeah. And so the only time, in my opinion, you really only need it is obviously the playoffs. Like that's obviously the only time where you need that extent, whatever, right? So there's no tie there, but ties don't.
I think it's kind of interesting too.
I do too.
I think it brings in some interesting scenarios.
I do too.
You get late into the overtime, you're thinking, okay, one team maybe really doesn't want the bye and they're trying to win. Maybe one team really needs the bye. It'd really help them. Or the tie. So you're just kind of it provides some different scenarios and different situations, and coaches have to kind of approach it in a different way. And like Brian said, it's not like it happens all the time. If it was happening all the time, it'd be a little different. But they're pretty rare, and when they do come up, it provides some pretty interesting television and a pretty interesting watch. So honestly, I really don't have that much of a problem. I'd like to see it extended to the full 15-minute quarter, but other than that, I'm fine with it.
I think I fully agree with you there, Dan. I would like to see it extended more. I think 10 minutes is a little too short. You just played a whole, like you said, this game is violent and it's angry, and these players, they play to win, So when it goes down to overtime, give them a little bit more time, like you said, at least a full quarter, or come up with a structure. Because I do kind of like the college football where let it go back. I don't know. I'm convoluted, man. Like I'm in murky waters with this one because I can bring up things I don't like and things I do like. Like I don't have the perfect scenario, but I do think it's you need a little bit more. I think the NFL needs to do just a little bit more to avoid ties, because I don't have a crystal ball or nothing. But like you said, Brian, I got a feeling that this tie is going to go one way or the other in this division. It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be a non-issue. I think the fact that they tied is going to tip one way or the other.
The division's going to be won by half a game.
No doubt.
I would agree with that. I think it'll be won by half a game.
No
So I think the
doubt.
Lions are going to win on Thanksgiving, and and then if the Lions do win on Thanksgiving, then there's really nothing there. It's like unless the Lions tie,
Yeah.
there's no way they can finish with the same record. So it's
Yeah.
not going to come down to tiebreakers at that point. It's going to come down to who has the better record. So
Yep.
from that standpoint, it kind of makes it a little bit of an easier watch and the easier understanding. So now you're not bringing all these different tiebreakers and things like that. It's pretty cut and dry. One team's going to have a better record than the other. So, but I do think you brought up the topic of like the division and the NFC as a whole. Like I thought before this season, I thought it was Packers and Lions. I thought it's just they're just going to be in a knockout drag out fight similar to what the Lions and Vikings did last year. I don't think it's going to be as many wins. I think they're going to be maybe 12, 13 wins might win it. But I think it's going to be a Lions Packers battle to the end. And this Thanksgiving game, I mean, there's still a lot of big games, but that Thanksgiving game, man, that is circled for everybody in both states of Wisconsin and Michigan, and I think nationally as well. It's like that is gonna be an absolute showdown on Thanksgiving Day.
Wait, man. Hey, remember when there were like national protests to get the Lions off of Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that is not the case anymore. It is not going to be the case this year. That is for sure. There's going to be protests to make this the primetime game.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you.
Man. So that Thanksgiving, man, that Green Bay Detroit Thanksgiving game is. Oh, I can't wait. I don't want to fast forward through November because there's a lot of football to go until that game. But man, that's going to be a showdown, and I can't wait.
Tom, let me ask you guys this. So the Lions right now are 5-2. They have their next 4 games before that game: Minnesota, at Washington, at Philadelphia, home New York. What's their record?
Gosh, I'll go first on this one. It's all tough, man. It's so tough because you would think like right off the rip it'd be that's 4-0. Well, maybe not Washington, but Washington's going through their issues, man.
Philadelphia too.
Going through these injuries now.
I think 3-1. I think Philly's a loss.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I think they're 8-3 going into that game with the Packers and feeling pretty good.
I think we could beat Philly, man.
Sure, I think that. They can
beat anybody in the NFL.
Yep, it's
pretty homer to just go and say, yeah, they're going to be 4-0. Like I think they're going to drop one, and I would.
Is it that homer though? Really? Like the way this team's playing, the way these guys. Okay, what team scares you the most? So you said it's Philly, Washington, New York, who
in Minnesota.
Weirdly is on this upswing now with Jackson. Well, sorry, Jackson Scat. Jackson Scat, man. You got these 2 kids running the show in New York, man. But I know they had that epic collapse in Denver, which was wild.
Mm-hmm.
But these kids are running the show now. Like that team's getting a little bit scary now, even right. And then who's the 4th one? So we had
Washington,
who Daniels may or may not be healthy.
Yeah. Minnesota,
New York, and then Philly, which Philly is not. They might have that Super Bowl hangover that's kind of lasted. Like, look at trust me, I drafted Saquon Barkley in the first round, first round over Chase, which was a horrible decision, obviously. But this offense does not look that great, and Philly looks very beatable, right? Like they're like water coming to the level or something with that, man. Like they're, and then like I said, who was the 4th one now?
We're looking Minnesota, Washington, Philly, New York.
Yeah, that's the other one who was like way over there. Like they don't even know. So you got like the most like the quarterback, Carson Wentz. Are you scared of Carson Wentz? And if JJ gets healthy, are you scared of him? Like, so like I think our Lions team could definitely go 4-0 in this stretch.
Well, they definitely can, but you're gonna pick
one
loss.
If we
pick at Philly.
Hey,
Washington's not going to be easy either if Daniels is healthy.
No.
Now, I wonder, okay, who do you think Vegas thinks? I bet the Lions will be favored in all 4 of those games.
0 chance they're favored going in Philly. 0 chance.
Yeah, they won't be favored. It'll be super close.
It'll be like 3. I think 3 most, right?
Yeah, I guess the home team kind of always gets to 3. It might even. I bet it'd be like 2.5. Like Because sometimes
somewhere
when
in
it's
there.
super
Philly would be
close,
favorite though.
they only give the home team 2.5.
Yep. Yep. No, I think we're all on the same page with this one. It'll just be we think 3-1 or Tom thinks 4-0. So all I know is that
let's go.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Brian.
No, I was just gonna say
let's go ahead with our predictions, and we can wrap this up. Like we're going into the bye week, right?
Yep.
And this NFC is just so like packed together. Green Bay's actually in front with 4-1-1 record.
Yeah,
there's so many teams that are 5-2. The Lions are 5-2. Philly's 5-2. There's three teams in the West.
Look at the resurgence of San Francisco. The way they just survive and advance, like they're playing NCAA basketball in the March Madness, dude. Like they just win regardless, man. Like they have like no receivers, and these guys are 5-2 right now with a backup quarterback, Mac Jones, man. Like it is, man. It's the wild North. Or the wild, NFC is what it is. Man. It ain't the Wild West. It's the wild North here with this conference.
So Brian, you go ahead and start off. Do you think, one, are the Lions going to win the division, and two, are the Lions going to finish with the 1 seed?
Yes.
Yes,
and
yes.
Yes and yes. I am not, and like I can't reiterate it enough. I am not. You guys will attest to this. I am not a lion sheep, but yes, I do. I do. Now, like in my opinion,
are you still employed or are you a former employee of the Detroit Lions?
I still have a lot of connections there. I am not an official employee, although I have friends and I still talk to the guy that I work for 100%. So yeah. And the other part, no doubt, I think they got through the hardest part of their schedule. I just do. The next toughest stretch for me is like Dallas, LA, Rams, and Pittsburgh. But like,
those teams are coming, man.
I
think they do. I think they do. They're the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Now, I think the toughest part of their schedule is coming, Brian.
I
don't agree. So they got the Vikings the first game out of the bye. They should win that one. That's a home game. After that, though, back to back, right? We talked about a little bit, but back to back road games against Washington and Philly. Then you got the Giants in the middle of that, but then you got the Packers on Thanksgiving. So 3 out of those 4 games are going to be huge, tough football games. 2 of them on the road. So that little 4-game stretch, and the Giants are they're not as easy as a matchup as we thought before the season. Right? You talked about Dart and Scatabo. Like they're not going to be an easy in between matchup either. So that's a tough stretch. But those 3, the 2 road matchups back to back with Washington and Philly. And then the Thanksgiving, the big showdown on Thanksgiving. So we're going to know after that stretch. I think Thanksgiving's, and we're really going to know by the end of Thanksgiving. We're going to have a very, very good idea of where they're at. And
here's Dan.
I have a tough time just saying they're going to win the 1 seed again, but it's hard to go against them. It's just hard to bet against them. Right?
Dan, here's why I say that. Right now, we're going to assume like all bets are off if there's injuries, of course. Right.
Well,
so we're assuming they're healthy. Right. And maybe people made that assumption last year, but assuming they're healthy, I think they're better than a year ago. That's the thing. I think they're
healthy
better
right now. So
I know that if they stay healthy, they're better than a year ago.
Even the offense.
I agree. And I want to mention that because I didn't really get into it. And it was something I want to talk about with the Tampa Bay game is Hutchinson. Hutchinson is the biggest game changer for what this team is and why they're better than they were last year, because Hutchinson is incredible. And the biggest thing that I saw from that game that we didn't mention was that Tampa Bay had to keep Auden in to help protect and double team against Hutchinson. Auden's a great pass receiver. Like he could have gave that secondary in the linebacker group problems. With his route running and with his ability to catch, but he had to stay in so much, and especially some big 3rd downs, some big 4th downs, because he had to stay in to double team Hutchinson. So last year when Hutchinson was out, it was just a complete game changer, and the Lions found a way. But once it got into the playoffs, like you saw it, like Washington was able to game plan against that, and they just attacked him at will. Having a healthy Hutchinson is the game changer. That is what changes everything for this Lions team, and you're seeing it this season. You saw it on Monday night. He changed, even when he doesn't get pressures or get sacks, he changes the game because you have to find a way to double team. You have to double team him, or else he's going to get to your quarterback.
Dan, that's such a great point, because I have heard people say, "Oh, Hutch, he just doesn't have it anymore. Or he's just not doing that good." And then like a knowledgeable fan will say it's taken he's disrupting the game plan and other things are happening because of exactly what you just said. So a lot of people, like I don't know, like the average fan or whatever, it might be like, oh, Hutchinson, he's not getting the tackles, he's not getting 2 sacks a game, he's not forcing fumble, like he really is falling off, like. But like you said, if you break it down, there's a reason for that. And that's why other players on our defense, they're eating because you gotta double team Hutch almost every play. And you got a game plan specifically for him a lot of times. And so Brian, I know we're wrapping up, but damn, it's such a good point. And it's something that like I you have to argue like with that, right? Like, so what do you think about that with like people saying, oh, Hutch isn't getting the stats right now? He's not. But like, what do you recognize? It like, are you recognizing the same thing that Dan is saying, that like, okay, like one player can make a difference without getting stats because of how the offense has to dictate about what he's doing?
Yeah, like it's all about how you impact the game, whether you have stats or not, right? And so Aiden Hutchinson impacts what offenses do. So every offensive coordinator that plays the Lions, the first thing they have to think about is, okay, how do the Lions use Aiden Hutchinson? How are we going to negate him the best that we can, right? And how can we game plan around him? Like that's just a reality of what he brings to the Lions defense. And 100%, dude.
Oh,
100.
we got a comment here from our buddy Shane Hines, Brian.
Oh, let's go.
He mentioned somebody we didn't mention, and we shouldn't talk about. There's so many things we
Right. Yeah.
details, but he says McNeil was a force up the middle. Will open up more opportunities for Hush now too. And he's 100% right. Like, McNeil was a big factor, and it was his first game back.
Yeah, and remember,
and something that Troy Aikman, the announcing crew, brought up, and they brought up a good point. Like they played McNeil. Like they had the bye week come in. Like they played McNeil because they knew it was a big game, and he came out and he looked great, in his first game back. So he looks like he's gonna. Now you got the bye week, so he can kind of rest up after that first game back, and he's gonna be a force for sure.
He's absolutely correct, right? Like offenses have to account for him and being healthy and playing well. And again, that's something that it affected the Buccaneers' ability and Baker Mayfield's ability to get off good throws down the field, right? Because of that. And so huge, great point, Shane. Great point.
Yeah.
All right, so Tom, you can wrap it up. We both Brian and
I do.
agree
Okay,
that they're going to take the 1 seed. So I think I know where you're going to go. But
I got the Lions. I got the Lions taking the 1 seed. I think it's ours for the taking. I'm not concerned about Chicago or Minnesota, and I'm not that concerned about Green Bay. I'm concerned about them because they find ways to win or tie games, pun intended. but they find ways to win. Was it not that funny? Dan didn't even move. But come on, it was kind of funny. But look,
they have the best record. They're the ones with the best record right now.
No, Green Bay has the best record.
That's what I'm saying. Green Bay are the ones with the best record. So you should be a little worried about them. I
know. I am worried about them because they do find ways to win or tie games. I make myself laugh. But listen, man, I think I think it's gonna be one of them like showdowns, just like it was last year with Detroit and Minnesota. I think I agree with you completely on that, except flip it to Green Bay. And I cannot wait for this Thanksgiving showdown. We still own for a few years back when they came into our house on Thanksgiving and beat us. So I think that'll be some extra little motivation, but I don't think anything in the past is going to matter with this squad. The Lions, they're fully focused. They're about to get healthy. And they are going on what I thought was the scariest part of the season, Dan, was going to Philly, then going to Washington back to back. That's a tough deal. That's two full-blown playoff teams that you have to worry about going down the stretch. When I saw the schedule and I saw that like that, I'm like, come on, man. Like, why does the NFL hate us? Like why would they do that to us? But I've been saying that for, I don't know, 40 years, is why did the NFL do this to us? But now, like you said, like things in the NFL, man, things change quickly, man. And in this Philly Washington road trip does not look as scary as it did in the beginning of the season. And I think
it still looks pretty scary, man. I'm not going to agree with you. If Jaden Daniels is healthy and playing, that's a tough game. As we saw in the playoffs, Jaden Daniels tore them up, so they're going to have to prove. And they did prove to me in the Baltimore game that they can stop a running quarterback, a team that utilizes a quarterback in their running game, which Washington does. Like they proved that they could at least contain it a little bit against Baltimore. So that's encouraging. But they're going to have to go on the road to Washington and beat a team that took it to them in the playoffs and ended their season. And then they got to follow it up and go to Philly, which is never, ever an easy place to play. And that's going to be an incredible environment on a Sunday night football game. So it's going to be an incredibly tough road. Yeah. But I think we can all agree, and we can kind of wrap it up, Tom. Like, I think we can all agree the winner of that Thanksgiving game, that's the team that's going to take the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Like whoever wins that game is going to win the division, and whoever wins this division is probably going to be the 1 seed.
I fully agree, and I will, man. I'm going for it, man. I think the line. I'm not saying they win out. There's going to be 1, 2, maybe even 3 losses down the stretch, but I think this team is equipped. I think this bye week is going to really help. And I'm very interested to see how the trade deadline does work out. But I think the future is bright. I think everybody knows the future is bright for the Lions. Is a Super Bowl champion bright? I think we're in the conversation. No doubt about that. All right. So, Brian, we got to shout out Nick Whiteside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's shout out Nick Whiteside, Avondale High School, played at Saginaw Valley, and really showed out. How cool is that, you guys? Like, let's wrap up on this good note. Like, I know, like, all of us have like met football players and like seen them younger and then rise up, but this is not. And I know, Brian, you were pretty interested in this situation where, like, when a local kid does good, man, and like being like both you guys being former high school coaches, how cool is that? Not only when somebody local shows out, but when they show out for the local national team. Is that just like the coolest thing for a high school coach? Or
by the way, I'm glad you said former and not retired, because I will coach again one day. But anyway, anytime like somebody that plays Michigan high school football makes it to the NFL, man, that like just says so much about the state of Michigan and the brand of football that we play and the quality and caliber of football that we play here. And just awesome. Oakland County kid who was able to make a play, and says a lot about our local universities too. He went to Saginaw Valley State, to get another guy into the league is pretty cool. So awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of high school coaches in Michigan, even though we didn't all coach him, take a lot of pride in his ability to go out there the other night.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Dan, you got any final thoughts?
No, and just to finish up on the Whiteside topic, like obviously the local angle is awesome, but I talked about earlier and kind of we started the show. I just think it's just always so cool when a guy gets an opportunity, maybe an unexpected opportunity, hasn't had a starting opportunity, and he gets that chance on a national stage and just absolutely balls out. Absolutely balled out and was one of the key players in that win last night. So it's just always cool to see, but especially for him to have a lot of local ties, that just makes it that much better.
Yeah. All right. Former and hopefully soon to be new head coach Barnes.
I've got some time, but yes, brother. I'm glad we got to talk again.
Yeah. you got any final thoughts on this show?
Nope. I'm excited to talk about some stuff with you guys again down the road, man. This is great.
It's a beautiful thing, man. The Detroit Sports Sit Down. One of my favorite things in life. Ain't nothing better than talking Lions football, especially when they're winning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Murphy Jr. For Dan Murphy and Brian Barnes, this is the Detroit Sports Sit Down. Good night.